Hello and welcome to Girl Awakening YouTube. I'm Jo Hendy.
And I'm Amanda Parker. Enjoy this episode of Girl Awakening in all of its vulnerable sacredness.
And remember to subscribe and share.
Oh, hello, Jo, in the Northern Territory.
Hello, Amanda. How amazing is this? How lucky are we to have technology to be able to do this? It's so incredible. And I wouldn't have missed this day for the world. I can feel the energy. It's like palpable. And being up here, it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Zhara with us today for the monthly gateway.
Thank you so much. This is great.
Yeah. So lucky to have you with us, Zhara. And I'm actually with some wonderful friends from Northern New South Wales who absolutely adore you, Zhara, and they listen to the podcast and they use life effects, and they're just right on track, right with us. So it's so beautiful to be here with them to share this moment. They wanted to come on. They said, "Can we all come on?" I was like,
If we see some little faces pop up behind at some point, it'll be like a little cameo appearance, a little photo bomb. But yeah, so it's really beautiful. To have the 5th of the 5th today, that beautiful portal, which feels so, as you say, tangible, powerful, palpable, and connecting in and just start to get a feel about what the space is all about today.
Yeah. And really what I'm getting is it's really just resonating with that truth now. And so thank you so much for the kind words, Jo. And it's actually a really good lead in to I think where we're going to go. But it's just an amazing time right now because we are all up leveling in such a huge way, and it may not be for many of us, but there's gold on the other side, and there's gold all the way through if we actually are willing to see it. And that's a lot to think about what the topic will be.
And trust. That's the other thing I've been getting to, just with what you just said, Zara. We always want something at the other end. If we're going to go, there has to be something there, kind of thing. And it's like, no, the magic is woven throughout the whole path. We just have to be awake and open to see it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so true, Jo.
Open, I think, is one of the most powerful words at the moment. Open heart, open mind, open. And that brings in a big element of vulnerability as well. Like for me, that I've been feeling very vulnerable in quite a few parts of my day. And as soon as I move into humor, Zara shared a beautiful saying a couple of weeks ago, resistance is futile.
Yes.
And that's just, I say it and it makes me laugh because it's just like, why am I even trying? Just, because if I follow with what I believe in and what's in my heart, why am I resisting?
Yeah.
And it's the vulnerability. It's that little bit of fear that comes in with being vulnerable and open. Doesn't feel safe all the time.
Feels scary.
So true. It's so true. I'll tell you just very quickly a funny story because there are a lot of those moments on this trip because Trev's an adventurer and he wants to go, and jump from the highest point of the waterfall or swim behind the waterfall. And so all my fears and my stuff has been coming up. And I just want to fight him, I just want to resist. And but it's not safe. It's like, honey, calm down, just come, trust me. And it's like all of those things, it's like letting go, allowing, trusting. And then when I do it, I have so much joy after I do it. And I'm like, why the hell do I not do that all the time? But it's the trust and trusting in someone else. Sometimes you actually have to let go and trust fully in someone else. And that can be hard too.
Yeah. And I think that's huge. It's been massive for me to actually let go and trust the universe
Mm.
through these big times of upheaval. And look, it is about trusting the human souls that you have around you, but also trusting the universe that these are the souls, regardless of what it looks like. These are the ones that you came to play with, even if the playing doesn't end well. Like you are here to show each other the road home. And so the universal message that I've been getting and like really living, because for some reason my higher self really wants me to experience all the depths and all the highlights to be able to, I think, relate it. But and that has come with a lot of I think a lot of baggage that's being dumped right now, and in the form of soul contracts. And you could look at the past year, you can for my life, it's been, you can really look at things one of many ways, right? And I think that's where a lot of us tend to get stuck, myself included, is I've been looking from certain perspectives when, the energy dips a little bit. I was, oh, why do I have to go through this? Why am I here? Why did I not see? Why did I not say no? Why did I not? All of that perspective is contrary to growth to a certain degree. And recently my eyes have been open, I think more like to the 95th percentile, and at some points the real 100%, which is just, oh, thank you so much for the gifts that you have given me in this relationship. And even though the relationship wasn't one of, bearing all this fruit, it was actually, we came together specifically to show each other what we needed to see. And and that's, it's huge, because that means admitting admitting your mistakes, your failures. Like, and this is how we're looking at it from the human, that we don't need to be perfect. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect and on pedestals. And so so I think a lot of my past year has been like, okay, why did I fail in this area? Why did I not see through things, or why did I not say no? But I wouldn't have experienced the growth, and we've been the greatest gifts for each other to actually touch on areas where we needed the light shown so that we could see what's really underneath these and back in these crevices of the human experience.
Literally, you're reading my mind. I feel like I'm nodding my head and I'm saying yes, because it's and I guess it's probably relevant for a lot of people as well, for us to be sharing what you're saying, for it to be coming through so clearly, and the resonance of it, because I haven't been feeling regrets. I haven't been feeling hard on myself, but I have been like replaying so many experiences and seeing them in a different way to experience them, but from still my own eyes, from my own perspective, but just from a totally different point of view, and seen so much more on it because of that. In so many ways. And it's really nice to re-experience some of these relationships, moments, without the feelings of guilt or shame or blame or hang-ups around it, but just to see it. It's been quite amazing experience, and just in that process of, I guess, letting go of things in that way, without the negative emotions and pulling myself down with it, no suffering involved. That's, I guess, what I'm getting at, not the suffering that probably would have been a pattern in the past. Feel bad about things when I'm looking at things from what I did wrong. It's not I did wrong, I just experienced and made choices. And I'm seeing more what those choices were about. And
the ability to view them from the eyes of Source, which is this is such a gift. This is such a gift for the evolution, such a gift for the soul, such a gift for the humans that you're interacting with, and can you not see it as just what it is, which is this bright light being shown into the darkness, right? Where we each have those, whether it's like, it's either the shame or the guilt or the I should have, I could have.
Or those kind of like things that take you nowhere, really.
The holding on to rightness. That's been, that's been in the space a lot too, just holding on to thinking that you're right or that I'm right. I know myself, and what I'm feeling right now is very right. And it's like, and then like, do you want to take another viewpoint on that? It's like letting go of the rightness too. That's a big one, because we can really get caught in that area of, I know myself, but that's just an energy field in itself. That's just another area of resistance. We just hold on to wanting to be right.
Because there is no right or wrong. That's the judgment. That's the judgment that we all bring into the picture. But it's really just we're having a human experience, and we are all each other's greatest gift. And and that goes. We can take that in the personal relationships that we've all been looking at, or we can actually look at it on the world stage. And so there is a lot of that's right, that's wrong on the world stage, even when it comes to how we're treating Mother Earth, when it comes to who's doing what in political spheres, and the certain agendas. But like literally, they are all a gift, and we have to, if we can look at it from that angle and that perspective, then we can really find a way out of the trap that we've been in, because that resistance to what is, and the judgment to who is playing the power, and who's controlling the strings, and all of it. It's actually all of us. It's actually all of God's source creation right here, right now, doing this work together to evolve.
Which is an amazing thing to consider, that we're all we're on the same ship.
We're all on the same ship. We all have free will choice to decide how we want to play on that ship. We actually have to give each other the grace and the allowance to play how we want to play. And that, I think, is probably one of the hardest ones for humanity to get their heads around right now, when they're seeing so much evil and corruption and in a lot that's been going on behind the scenes coming to the forefront. And it is one of the hardest ones for us to say, actually, you know what, that's also part of me, because we're seeing that reflection in the hologram through everything.
Wow. Actually, because you just brought back for me, I think it was the Way of the Water, way back when our first one, the third of the third, you brought this up in the context of the reflection. We were talking about the reflection, I'm pretty sure it was, and saying about how there's, even the people who are doing the bad things, or the evil, the things that we consider evil, or the controlling, that's not wrong, or I can't remember the context of it. It's literally what you just shared then around we've come around from looking at those people over there and going, oh, you're the bad guys, to have been within our shadow state and going, oh, there's an element of the bad guy in me too that I need to own, and release and be shine the light on and acknowledge. And it's not necessarily what it is the people are doing wrong. It's about realizing that we're all the same, and we're all on this even if we don't want that passenger on there. It's like we're all on the ship.
There's a reason. Reason why they're there.
And Source doesn't judge. That's one of the biggest lessons that I've been getting. Is Source doesn't judge what's right or wrong, good or bad. Source doesn't have an opinion on good or evil, but Source recognizes a balance point, and the harmonization point of frequency. And so that's what we're going through right now, is that up leveling of frequency within the own self, to actually return to that oneness and that unity. consciousness,
Mm.
not from a place of ignoring the shadows
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
dark by any means, but from a place of how do we actually, because I asked, like, truly love what is,
Truly love what is.
so we can get to the other side.
Mm.
It's an interesting topic of conversation, because I don't think the experience of oneness has to be felt. It has to be felt deep down in the recesses of the soul.
Mm.
And when we feel it for the first time, that's when we truly start to awaken. When we truly start to have the love for the other, regardless of what that other takes shape as
Yeah.
in this existence. So
Yeah. So my daughter and I were sitting on the beach where you and I often have a coffee, Joe. And we were talking. Oh, we were talking about the little baby hammerhead sharks where Trev did this diving, and there's about 30 or so baby hammerhead sharks have been born around Burleigh Headland, and they're getting ready to go out to the sea from there. And my daughter's afraid of sharks, and I was saying I'd love to do the little snorkel around and see them, and she's like, oh, I'd never be doing that. And I kind of laughed, and she said, isn't it funny how there's creatures who live by eating others? And I laughed, and I was like, that's actually really kind of a really beautiful thing to say, because it means so much. It's very simple the way she was saying it, because she doesn't really even like watching David Attenborough, because she doesn't like the deer getting eaten by the lion kind of thing, that makes her sad. But it's the cycle of life. She acknowledges the cycle of life. And then we were talking about how humans are at the top of the apex. Humans are actually the only creature on the planet that eats everything. We don't just eat grass or, this or that. We eat everything. And like our cycle of life dominates every other creature on the planet, which is kind of an interesting concept when you think about it from the point of view of all the other creatures on the planet.
It's actually, it's an interesting conversation. This morning, my daughter, I'm staying out with her at her dad's house, and it's farmland and there are cows. And she's built this beautiful relationship with the cows over her lifetime. But she said something this morning that just is spot on with what we're talking about right now. Well, she was talking about how, that when the cows get old, the neighbor sells them to market, right? Or if that little baby's misbehaving, it gets moved on. And look, and because I think all of your listeners are aware, this is not just, the humans aren't the only species on this planet. And what's actually happening within the human race right now is the same thing. And until we start waking up to the cruelty that we're actually inflicting on other species, just because we're at the top of the apex doesn't necessarily give us permission. We actually have to treat others how we want to be treated ourselves. So everything that you're seeing within the human race and how they're being exploited, and you've got the sex trade, and you've got all this
slavery,
the slavery. It's not just a top-down approach. It's systemic from the heart is what's going on. And so this is why the awakening of the heart is the most important thing at this point.
It's so interesting that it's so interesting we're having this conversation, because sometimes it takes to move away from what's so easy to come and be almost like you don't feel like you are at the top of the chain, which that's one view of looking at it, where you start to become aware of plants. Like I've got a guy with me who's he's been collecting seeds and stuff from different trees, and he knows it's like having David Attenborough with us on this trip, because he knows everything about plants, and he loves them. They're a part of him, and he's a part of them, and it's literally changed my view. So everything you just said then, Zhara, was like, everybody needs to move away from the city for a little time to get some perspective, because it's really like everything's alive out here. and you appreciate and look and love everything that's around you. You know, you don't realize how lucky we are. First of all, to live in such a beautiful, big spread out country, but also to have so much life around us that we just take for granted when we live in a city or when we live in even on the Gold Coast. You know, it doesn't become apparent until you move away, and it's like everything. Perspective is such a beautiful thing when we can, you know, move back a little.
Yeah. But you're immersed in it right now. I mean, it's just
Absolutely.
beautiful. It's just so revitalizing, isn't it? Like you must feel quite different just being in nature 24/7.
Yeah, everything's magnified. Like even the moon. Like we have been watching the moon change every night, and the subtleties are so beautiful.
Yeah.
And we've also just been watching, you know, the stars, and we've seen some interesting things in the skies, and you know, waking up to different birds, and then, you know, you've got flies and mozzies, and the plant life is incredible, and there's some things that Jazz has never seen before, and he's like, oh my god, you can see this here, and you suddenly become aware of other things that aren't, you know, so much physical, like as in body physical.
Yeah. And more, I guess, like more consider what, because the word that comes up for me is like considerate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel quite small out here, and that's not a bad thing. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy for the magnificent trees to fill the void, or the magnificent waterfalls to fill the space. You know, it's just been so incredible to witness and be a part of something. Like I said to you guys earlier, last night we decided at the last minute to walk down to this waterfall because so many people had said to us, oh, it's magnificent. But you hear that a lot out here. So you're like, oh, wow, I wonder what this one's going to look like. And when we arrived, I was just standing on the edge, just like in tears. Dad kind of put his arm over my shoulder, and he felt exactly what I felt. And I said, wow, this is magnificent. It's just magnificent, you know. And then to swim in the water, and it's just so beautiful. So amazing. Yeah.
The energy of that water must be incredible. Like when you jump like that, you know, when you jump in the water, and
you feel like you're getting healed in all different ways at each different place, because you know, there's different communities and countries in different areas that we're going into, and they have different beliefs, and you can feel all of that in the waters and in the land. It's so beautiful. Really beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't want to come home. Oh my god, I get emotional when I think about coming home. It feels like, but
Well,
I'm gonna bring it all with me.
Yes, that sounds like a good plan. Yeah, definitely. Well, you know, because that's that thing, like once you've expanded, you can't, you know, you think you can contract, but you never actually are the same again, you know, like, so, you know.
So how do you make your daily life that real reverence for all that is, you know, reverence for nature, and I do think it's just slowing down and taking the time to appreciate, if it's not the birds or the bees or the trees or the waterfalls, but whatever's right in front of you.
Yes.
Because it's still all part of the whole. It's still all part of the whole, whether it's a cup of tea, right? Or the pen, or we were talking about mold earlier, about the mold on your wall, whatever it is, it's like it is still part of the whole, and that's how we can actually shift consciousness really quickly. It's just loving everything that's there, regardless of what it looks like, and then choosing conscious change. But you know, when we choose from resistance, we start to cave into a certain degree in the heart. And then actually,
it's definitely something within, isn't it? It starts from within.
It's interesting because if you're in resistance, it's just all landing at the moment. If you're in resistance and you try to push against what is right, whatever that might be, and this goes for humanity as a collective right now, as we're looking at what's unfolding on the world stage, if we push against what is, we are not just caving in the own heart space, but it's actually a cataclysmic shift in consciousness. If we can actually love it for what it is, it actually starts to change timelines very quickly. Because then we can choose from a place of complete awareness and self-assessment, because this is a reflection of you, it's a reflection of me. In case we go inward and we do the healing work, which we're all doing in great fashion. Well done, everybody, high fives. Well done. And it's not comfy. It's not comfy, and I'm doing one like real deep dives for that transformation, because it's like, look, it's just like if we were all to heal, the planet wouldn't be what it is, right? In any way, shape, or form. But we have process.
Yeah.
As a species, we have process. As individuals, we have process. As a whole, we have process. And so we can't fault the others in our reality field. And, that can be your family, your friends, whatever, the neighbor, the man down the street, or the world political stage, or what's going behind that. We actually can't fault that for what it is at this point in time. It doesn't make it right. Doesn't actually even necessarily make it wrong, because we've all chosen these lifetimes to live, to bring more light through the dark. And there's layers, right? Because if you look at it from God's source, that collective consciousness perspective, of which we are all a part of, we've all chosen every single bit of this. Every single bit of it. And if we can look at that from that lens with love, like with just real, true love for the other, that's when the shift begins. But we're looking at it from a stepped down perspective. Most of us on the planet, we're looking at it from a step down perspective of, okay, we need to bring more light into the planet. We need to bring more love. We need to bring more laughter, because this is right and this is wrong. And as hard as it may be to take in for many of us, there isn't any wrong. And I say that to myself as well, because I've traveled to what's going on with the human soul. I had this experience last year, and it was one it took me months to actually recover from, because it was probably, if I asked for help, it probably wouldn't have taken me that long. But I actually went into the abyss, into hell, and traveled there to actually experience what these souls were going through, so that at the right time I could actually share that with people who are making choices, because we all have choices. And now that I actually know that and what that is like, I can speak from a place of that's not necessarily where you want to go. It's real. It is going to affect you and disrupt your evolution. But it's also not necessarily wrong. And so, yes, while there have been forces that have taken control of this reality stream, we've actually designed that too. So it's like, it's crazy, isn't it? It's a game. We're playing out a war, metaphysical and a very real on the ground war. We're playing this out, but we can't lose sight of the bigger picture. And so if we can stay here as we fight our battles, we've got just so much more to give.
So much more to give. And exactly what you were talking about, Zhara. I was listening to a guy, Jeffrey Hopp, who channels Adamus, Saint Germain, and he was talking about, or Saint Germain's Adamus was talking about a lifetime in Atlantis, and it really, I was like, where he was like a helper person, and he walked into a room where some people were chanting and doing like energy work, and he was unaware of what they were doing. He walked into the room and he walked into the energy field, and he suddenly found himself trapped in a crystal, and he couldn't get out of the crystal. It's giving me like a weird feeling even just talking about it. And he said he thinks he spent like hundreds, maybe thousands of years trapped in this crystal, and he tried everything to get out of this crystal. Everything you can imagine he tried. And then suddenly, after all his, you know, period of time, it came to him that he walked into it, so he must be able to walk out. And I was just like, oh my fucking God.
Yes, I'm just thinking the same thing. Isn't that wild how we do that as humans? Like, literally, we make it so fucking hard for ourselves.
And he did. He walked out, and he was like, oh. We make it so hard.
Yeah.
And I
Really
just
bad
resonated
example.
in so many ways.
Yeah.
Really feeling
So
that.
funny.
It's just, can we just let go already? You know?
Yeah.
Can we let go? And it is something that we can do.
That's we walked in, we must be able to walk out.
But it's definitely part of that journey, isn't it? Like we want to make it hard for ourselves so we get the lesson.
Yeah.
The soul wants to evolve, the soul wants
Yeah.
to, you know?
Yeah.
And we're all doing it at different rates. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I was going to say we have to go easy on ourselves around that and not beat ourselves up because it's taking too long, or, you know, why am I getting it, or why isn't the right person showing up, or why isn't this showing up for me? No, this is all perfect.
Yeah.
Just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're healing those gaps of separation at the moment as well. And it's interesting because I was that's the big work for myself at the moment. We're just going to get vulnerable for a second. It's been like really healing that shadow self around wanting to stay separate and wanting to actually stay alone and not wanting to have the closer connections. Not necessarily in romantic relationship, but just in friends, in friendship as well. And it's been like a huge hole, and it's actually a tear in the consciousness and the fabric of reality itself. And I've just been going in there with personal journeys into these holes so that we can actually see the light, which is we're not separate. You and I are doing this together. I can recognize it. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. If we can't recognize it together, that's still okay. Yeah. And look, and it's such a big one for humanity as a whole. You know, it's playing out, like we said, on a small scale, but as that larger collective doing this together. Regardless of what side of the fence they're on.
Yeah, well, it's if you see someone as separate, it's really easy to hurt them. Or to do something, you know, take something, or, you know, all those kind of things. But the minute you see them as a reflection of you, it's a totally different ball game, isn't it? Like, puts the emotional connection at the very least, if not, you know, changes the whole ball game around the way we relate to people.
And the highest evolving souls are the ones who are really doing the work on that level. Every relationship, instead of just brushing it off or saying, oh, he's that, she's that. It's actually being like, okay, leaning close. Yes, we've had this separation. What is in that for me? Because I'm not my own island, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought I was on Do Not Disturb. Yeah, which is really funny that person just called.
So it's so much.
Even though it was on Do Not Disturb, that person got through.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and that's what we have to look at. It's the biggest, the ones that we want to turn away from the most right now. The ones we want to turn away from the most, the ones we want to be the most angry at, or have the most justifications towards, or any of it. Those are the ones that we need to love the most.
Lean into
and love it. Really see the gifts for the shadow side of the self. That's
I think that's part of why I feel so good being away, because I'm away. I'm going to put my beautiful hat on, girls, because I'm literally, the sun's coming out and it's getting warm. So now I look like I'm really in the outback.
You are. You're like, and that's like, you know, an emu feather that you like rode through the desert today, and it gave, you know, fell off, and you put in your hat. You can tell.
2 years back.
But yeah, that's so
Yeah.
true, because even like, and you know, obviously when there's trauma associated with someone, it's not like you have to walk up to them and hug them or anything like that, but you can do it on a consciousness level, you know, like on an energetic level. There's work that you can do around that space about leaning into them and, you know, the relationship in that way.
Not even them, because sometimes it's
Mm.
you're sick and you don't want to go anywhere near that
True.
energy field.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get really clear on
let's
boundaries. Because this is actually about boundaries as well. It's about looking at that other if it is toxic.
True. Yeah,
it's setting that boundary and not necessarily going in there, but it's leaning into the self. Why is it?
Yeah.
You know, really.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
About the understanding. It's about the understanding, having yeah, I just keep getting, it's about having understanding for others.
Yeah, and where they're coming
from. It goes back to that perspective, the viewpoints that, you know, that there's many viewpoints about the one situation. And it's about being able to have understanding for the other person or whatever's happening for the situation. And then that energy can shift.
Yeah.
Even through having understanding, not physically having to do anything about it.
Yeah. And loving ourselves through that journey.
Yeah.
Because some of them are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, they're highly toxic. And it is about setting the boundary. Okay, whoa. Yeah. Because I think a lot of, like yourself, empaths, healers, people who just love to give and want to be of service, sometimes we just haven't necessarily really solidified our walls, so to speak. And like, no, actually, that's not okay. I'm not going to continue to do that or play that role for you, because I love myself so much. Yeah. And I love you so much, because you know, you can't take and take and take and continuously take without burning the candle at both ends. So we actually have to restore the balance and the harmony within the eternal self and that internal structure. And that comes with each one of us, like really setting solid boundaries, but not because the other's wrong, but because that's what feels aligned for our own evolutionary path and journey.
And that process is completed then, is that right? Like if you bring those healthy boundaries in and the understanding and see the relationship or see the interaction for what it is, then that completes that process with that person?
Not necessarily, because there could be something deeper going. It could be a karmic cycle on repeat. Like there's so much to this evolutionary journey. Like sometimes it could be something that could be so far off left field that you need to do or experience to close that door and close that gap. That I've had my own where I'm like, really? That makes no sense. You know, and logically it just
that makes no sense.
Like, and then you take that plunge into following the heart, the guidance of your own intuition and your own highest aspect. And that's where you find the freedom. It's not necessarily always about the boundaries. It's about doing what you need to do to complete that cycle of growth and learning.
True.
And sometimes
I love that. Sorry, Zhara. I love that saying where, you know, you don't lower your consciousness to the level of others, where others are playing. Like you bring them up, try and bring them up, as in just by your communication, not necessarily by telling them to do things or anything like that, but you doing your best around consciousness can support others to then rise up to where they are able to play or see or whatever, but never you lowering down to that level where you're just looking in whatever the situation or.
And if someone's not ready to rise, you gotta let go, because it's not your job. It's not your duty. It's not your job. You're there for the ride, for whatever experiences that you needed to do together. And that's great. And that could be a loved one. It could be a non-loved one, but it's time to actually let go and to really, you know, there are windows of opportunity in time. And if we don't actually pay attention to those windows, that's when we create a lot of suffering for ourselves and others as well, you know, for all of us. So it is about attention to the detail.
I feel like we were talking about, or what I just mentioned before about looking back on different experiences, what you just said then about if you're not stopping and looking through the window, if you're just, you know, barging down the hallway and there's a window there and you're not looking, you know, you can't beat yourself up about for it. I realized it's no point beating myself up about it, but you know, you can, there are other windows, so there's always the opportunity by learning the lesson that there's other windows to look through. It's raising consciousness, raising your awareness, opening your eyes more, not keeping them closed. You know, and I guess, like, you know, I was thinking also, like, just before, like, what, you know, when you said about this makes no sense, like some of our normal behaviors, you know, like if I kind of thought looking forward that, say, having, you know, drinking too much on a night, going out and having, you know, a lot of fun, a lot of alcohol, getting drunk, and then waking up the next morning and going, oh, that was a great night, but emotional turmoils is a part of the experience, you know, and how you feel physically in yourself, feeling, you know, shame because, you know what, you know, did this to my body, or, you know, why did I say that to this person because I was drunk, you know, there's these excuses, all that kind of stuff. That makes no sense, that kind of behavior, does it? But we do these behaviors all the time, like, you know, it's like, that's just the normal behavior by many expressions, isn't it?
And look, and there's still no right or wrong, because you might go out and do that and have the time of your life, and that's exactly what you
doing
need.
It anyway, like trashing yourself anyway, but even if it doesn't feel good.
And maybe that's just what you need to come to another level of evolution, or maybe you did that and you actually, I don't know, you know, ran a red light and saved someone else's from getting in a car crash. I mean, like, there's so many, the universe works in synchronicity with the whole. And so if we can actually follow our own guidance on our own happy spot, so to speak, like, that's where I'm meant to be, that's what I'm supposed to be. It may not necessarily be for you that you're there. That's a life of service. And it doesn't necessarily mean you don't take yourself into account by any means. You always put the self, the eternal self first, but that's the real let go. I think it's just allowing whatever it is to be. And then consciousness.
That's being of true service, isn't it? That's being of service. That's the true meaning of being of service.
And letting the universe and God guide you, but at the same time, universe and God will guide you based on where you're at in your consciousness, right? For the up-leveling of that consciousness. And so we can this is the balance point. It's like we can give instructions to the universal will. Actually, I'd like my life to look a bit more like this. I'd like to be in service on an island in Tahiti. You know, that we can do that. And as long as it's in alignment with the soul's highest gifts and nature, it'll flow. And that's where that's what we're all trying to do, is find our flow to find our way home. In one way, shape, or form. We're on this path.
So true.
We're
so true and so beautiful.
We're looking for that road.
And I guess, like, with the, you know, the gateway today, the 5th of the 5th, and, you know, part of connecting up with you out Northern Territory on the top of Australia, today specifically, like with the full moon that's coming through in Taurus, and the sun in Scorpio, and the sun in Taurus. You know, these, you know, values, the shadow self, the deeper self, the esoteric energies, you know, that the whole playing field that we've been talking about today, with where human consciousness is at, and where we can be if we all look at each other as one, if we all join as one. And it's I don't know, how do you I don't know, it literally comes back to that oneness in oneself, because letting go of your own shit lights you up, lifts you up, enables you to have understanding for another. If you're sitting in your own shit, it's very hard to have understanding for someone else, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's like the energy at the moment just feels so very poignant around that one point of being still and just letting go and feeling safe in that, even though like we're coming right back to the beginning where we didn't, you know, where vulnerability isn't a safe space necessarily.
It's the only
I think
space to really grow, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I think this is I say this to my kids a lot too, you know, it's like everybody's going through something. Everybody's got something going on in their heads, you know. It's like they may look like everything's right and beautiful and bright and shiny for them, but they still go home and they still have the same stuff going on in their head. You know, we need to actually have more understanding for people. You know, we need to allow people just to be sometimes in their shit, because, you know, like we just talked about, some people just need to sit in it just for a little bit to unravel or to bring out whatever's been sitting there in the shadows. You know, for them to sit in the shit is going to help bring that out.
Yeah.
Like if we can just see each other, I suppose, as, you know, that old saying, treat others as you'd like to be treated, or however it goes. I think life would be a little easier.
Yeah. Yeah, being in shit is not necessarily a bad thing, you know.
No.
No. The cards that we drew this morning was, the first one is be honest with yourself.
Oh, wow.
And I must be honest, I was like, okay, I'm going to take that on, but I'm going to draw another one just in case.
Of course.
And then the law of attraction came up.
Oh, what a beautiful card.
Yeah. And then one that we've already had, which obviously is still a very powerful one, was holding still, was there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Well,
So,
there really isn't. There really isn't. When we look at everything we've just talked about, you know, there's nothing to be worried about.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because unless you really go through the depths of it and then go through the depths and being like, oh, okay, I can sit here and still not worry. You know, if we can do that with the things that are the most challenging, then we're really finding the grace. And yeah, some of us have harder lessons to learn than others this time around. And can be fun too, and there can be magic wands, and you can move energy really quickly. It actually just reminds me, I wanted to bring it up because, well, we do need to go through those lows. How long we stay can be a bit magical. There was an experience I had maybe 10 years ago where I was just like shedding a lot, and I was just crying, and I was out on the land in the valley, and I was holding other energy out there as well, but I didn't realize it at the time. I just felt horrible. I just felt sad, depressed, upset, and I was just crying. And I was like, I called my business partner. I was like, I'm not going to be in the clinic today. Really, no one wants to be around. I need to sit here and wallow. Like, this is like so intense, right? And after I hung up with her, there's an email that flashed up, and the message was, what if you just chose happy? And I was like, okay. So I just said, okay, I choose happy. And literally that entire freight train of whatever that was, gone. And I was like, well, that was really interesting experience. So there are so many nuances and there's so many ways to discern. While yes, we need to go to the depths to a certain degree, we don't necessarily need to stay there. There's so many ways to view this universal consciousness and how to shift and how to move and how to groove with it, really, and how to play with it and how to be at one with it. I just hate to bring anything to conclusion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So staying 100% open with, you know what? Anything could turn on a dime for me in my life right now. And that's actually where we really just want to drop in, if that's okay, into that magic and miracles, so that we know that anything and everything is possible for each one of us. Because so many times the mind wants to tell us it's not, but actually We can move mountains with our own thoughts, with our own intent, and with our own ability to stay open, like you said. So just take a few minutes to drop in there, if that sounds okay. All right, so what we're going to do is move the time-space barriers into thinking we're unable, or whenever we're thinking we're unable to accomplish a certain task or ride a certain wave. We can actually hop off the wave at any given moment. You actually don't need to ride any one to completion. And this is the timeline shifting. So we've been programmed, though, right? To think that time is linear, to think that thought produces form, and we need to ride that thought form out into completion. Yeah, so that's the underlying programming of the whole human race. You must think this, and then you must let it come to completion. Because you started something, so let's finish it. Okay. So instead of that program, we're going to take a different approach. What you need, what you desire, what you require for your path of evolution, for your path of service, here at this moment in time, can appear miraculously. It can appear without need. It can appear without want. It can appear even without your focus or your intention. Anything and everything is possible in this gateway. So let's stop talking about what isn't, and we'll talk about what is. Everything is. Do you get that one? Everything is. And everything is not. It's all up to your ability to believe that is so. The elephant will stay stuck to the pole that it's been tied to until someone leads it away, because he was trained that way. Remember, you've been trained a certain way, to think certain things, to see that reality must play out this way. And really, cataclysmic shifts are possible. Enough people must come onto the timeline to move humanity's collective consciousness. When you have enough people, you can have peace on earth. It doesn't need to take forever, as many may. It can be one timeline jump, one fell swoop. This is what you're capable of. Walking out of the distance. We can walk out of the crystal at any given time. Walk out of the paradigm. We must hold our belief system so. Everything and anything is possible. Universe, show me a miracle. And we can do this in our own lives, for the lives of the ones we love, and for the collective species. So let's remember this as we move forward. That it can all shift on a dime. No matter what you're going through, it can all change in due course, or there can be miraculous healings. The more that you believe in miracles, the more that they'll occur. We'll start building up the belief system. Listen to others who've experienced it. Start breaking down the walls where you think it's not possible. Kriya Yoga will start to heighten the electromagnetic field. Break down the barriers that we put in place. You can use that as a tool. Many other things as well. But use discernment. This discernment with your own heart. Where it's feeling it requires more. And where it needs less of something. Your own balance is a key to this evolution. So we can unlock the grids by knowing we are capable of miracles. Each and every one of us. Not reserved for the healers, the ones who are quote unquote evolved, because no one truly is. We're all works in progress. So that's it. All part of the whole. Each and every one of us is capable. Do we grab the reins or do we not? That's the only question. It's just choice. Oh, it's beautiful, ladies. We can truly create magic in every moment. So while the conversation is necessary, because we need to unload, we need to unpack, we need to actually go through this evolutionary stage of consciousness where talk and conclusion and judgment's a part of it. Remember, there are always miracles. Yeah, and we each have that as part of our soul's lineage. Because we're each part of the entire whole, which is God. So,
such a strong program, that one. It's like I literally felt, or I could see the timeline over here that was just like heavy and dark, and it was the wants and needs and haves to and haves nots and all that. And then when you said like we're creating a new timeline of magic, I was just like, it was just bright and light, and there was literally nothing ahead of me. It was like whatever I wanted to create was ahead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because you have that conscious choice, and that's what I think so many of us are lost in, is a lot of the prophecy, because it has been programmed into us, into the DNA sequence. And so we're actually writing that out right now. And so it is actually that conscious shift into knowing what doorways are actually available. And I don't think it's being talked about enough at this stage, because we've been so conditioned in that linear time set, that time frame, so to speak, and what we're looking at with revelations and the prophecies and is playing out and that and but actually we can just throw it all away and say, oh, let's start again. But it is a collective conscious choice, and we can do it however we want, individually and as a collective. So good fun. It's interesting. I actually started this work and started speaking about and doing different audios on the ability to just shift the timeline like nothing else. And I stopped because I don't know why I stopped. Because maybe I felt it wasn't being received, or just, you know, the self-worth and all, you know, all of that. But that's probably where I'm just feeling like really needs to be spoken into. And
yeah, it's probably more ready now. People are ready now, I reckon, for that type. They're more open to that.
Yeah.
That belief, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is a new program. And remember, we're downloading, we're installing, we're removing, we're updating. And so I wonder what would happen if we actually all updated, like really updated to a way where we can move uninhibited.
Well, I think it's where a lot of this, like where this, you know, this lunar eclipse, the Taurus Scorpio energy is around, like, you know, the past is the past. Let that shit go. If you want to sit in it for a while, still processing, that's fine. That's your choice. But then you got this Pluto and Aquarius energy coming through, and that is like the update, the opportunity to update and new frequency and new humanity in that oneness and not the separateness. I think, and you know, all the technologies and things that people are talking around and the AI energy and things, if we bring that into the human experience, the update is so real, isn't it? You know, it's so tangible, as we're talking about. You can really feel that potential. And I think, you know, what you were sharing about your audiobooks and the timelines, and what I feel like, and Jo, you've talked about this a lot too, how you connecting to, like, the veil is so thin now, like you know, everything is so much more visible and apparent instead of being like hidden, or, you know, this separation from what is. And the language is like, I think at the beginning of the year you said, Jo, your word was discernment, and oh my God, everywhere you turn, discernment is, and you know, so it's kind of like people are ready, like, you know, what you were bringing through earlier, maybe a small percentage might have been picking up on it, but now it's kind of like people are so ready. It's like, let it rain. You know, it's, you know, it's the frequency is just there, and for people to be resonating with what must be coming, what must come through, what must be shared.
And I think we do have to go through our soul's growth in regards to this. It's actually because we need to be ready to hold that frequency to a certain degree, but there's just so many layers. I'm actually honestly just unraveling it myself, because it's been such a training ground with spirit for the past, especially like full on for the past 3 years, to really see what's possible, see what we're capable of, but not neglect the art of discernment and the art of coming home back to the heart and back to the center. And yeah, I think we do have a lot of growth left as a collective, but it may not necessarily take as long as we think. If we can all decide to ride that wave, so to speak.
I think the critical mass is, you know, as you're saying, like that group of souls that have all gathered to a point. We're at that little tipping point where it's just going to be a tidal wave where everyone can choose to be on or off. It's not a destructive tidal wave as the sense of a tidal wave is thought of, but yes, there's a lot of wiping out of what does no longer serve us. Perhaps that's, you know,
because it's going to be in our reflection as well, right? So whatever we walk down the path focusing on, if it's the art of discernment, okay, great, we're going to learn that. And even if we didn't want to see that, even in our soul's growth, we may need to see it. But this is it, is it's like the soul's in control. The source of all that is orchestrating, and we are just playing because we are all that source. And so it's like I don't know if I have the words at the moment.
You can feel it, though.
It's about letting go of the control, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot around around intention too, like being very clear about your intentions and actually asking instead of just having this light-hearted, you know, oh, I'd really like this to happen, like setting intentions. I'm getting that's really powerful in my space at the moment. Just, you know, what do I want moving forward? What do I want in the next week? What do I want in the next month? You know, what are my intentions? Where do I want to take them? You know, what do I want to create? And putting that out there and trusting more in the intentions.
Yes, and and also because time's not linear, right? So your higher self is actually showing you those intentions, because then that will magnetize what your next step is in this round. So it's interesting. I did a big, maybe a month ago. I was like, okay, went down to the beach at night and I was just saying clarity, clarity, clarity. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, got all the clarity in I did it more forcefully, I think, or more committed, just committed. It was commitment. I am ready.
Intently.
Complete clarity. Bring it on. And so I think absolutely, Joe, attention without attachment. Ooh, good fun.
Yeah.
Good fun.
It's an art form.
I'm getting a bit hot out here, ladies.
Well, I think we've done well. I think we've kind of like really brought some clarity, intention, discernment, and some light. Vulnerability. Love.
Love of this whole process.
And a willingness to be open. To what is, no ifs, when embracing all that is, when embracing the clarity, when embracing the commitment, when embracing intention, when embracing discernment.
Loving the journey.
Loving the journey.
Loving the journey, regardless of what it's like.
Yeah. Resistance is futile.
Yes. I just wanted to finish up too on saying just something about the full moon and the eclipse and in Scorpio and all that today, because I did read. I've been, lots of things have been popping through my device as well as through source around cleaning up, a big cleanup this eclipse is having. Like, the last one was all about the shadow coming out and creating a new identity, and this one's almost like the backside of that I've been reading about. So still cleaning out the shadows, and just for our listeners, to be aware and to sit under it tonight and make some clear intentions about where you want to go moving forward, and jump on that magical timeline, and not the one that you can't have or you shouldn't, or just allow and see what magic comes. And if it is a little bit of shadow, then it's a little bit of shadow, but you're right where you need to be, and just keep opening and creating a new path. I feel like that's the beauty that we've got with this full moon, is creating the identity that we want moving forward, and creating a space that we want to sit in more regularly, that's kind of more divinely guided for us.
That's beautiful, Jo.
Maybe we find our power in the shadow.
Absolutely.
May we find our power in our shadows.
I love you, Manny. Your communication is getting very clear and precise. I love it.
And we shared a beautiful post on our Girl Awakening Instagram today, didn't we? Like about.
I can't wait to see it.
So listeners want to have a look. But and this episode, I think is divinely timed. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And we'll Girl Awakening, hey? It's all happening from all around the world.
Yes. So beautiful. The birds and the bugs are affirming that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zhara. Thanks for coming in again. You're such a giving, beautiful soul, and we love you so much.
Yeah, we're gonna have some. We're gonna have some little leads to Zara's audio books.
Oh, yes,
Well,
yay.
And things
Yes,
like that.
we're just
drop
getting, I'm
that in there.
restructuring a little bit as
Yeah.
well. So give me a couple of weeks to a
No
month
pressure.
to make sure that I just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Last time we
I'll
said that Zara wrote a book within a few days of an episode, so I'm just like dropping it out there for her.
Yeah,
Yeah, all in process now. It's taking those steps to put them out into creations. Yeah,
absolutely.
beautiful.
Do you want to stay on the line?
Yes. Thank you everyone for being with us today.
Bye,
Thank you.
Bye.